closer, just under 8.5 hours before tip-off tonight. The Cavs hosting the Knicks. Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Cavs down 2-0 in the series. Happy to return home. They've been nearly unbeatable there this season, winning 6 of their 7 home games, averaging over 114 points a game. Much different on the road, going 2-7 and averaging 10 fewer points per game. And now to the guy who is doing such a great job calling this series. Legs is with us. Tim Legler, what do you need to see tonight, Legs? First, let's start with the home team. From Donovan Mitchell, from James Harden, who they acquired at the trade deadline. What do those two need to bring to get the Cavs back in this series?
Well, Hannah, it doesn't all fall on their shoulders. But look, these are their two best players. These are the two guys that are most equipped to be dual threats. And being good might not be good enough against this Knicks team. They might have to be sensational. And for each guy, it means something different. For Donovan Mitchell, that's probably going to mean put up a big scoring number. And I'm not sure he's 100%. Had a little bit of a groin thing going on in game 1. I thought game 2, he just lacked a little bit of explosiveness. We'll see how he looks tonight. He's got to put up a big number. Harden has to be the guy that collapses their defense to make shooters better. But Hannah, it's not just those two guys. They missed way too many open looks amongst their role players. They've got to make the Knicks pay if they're going to load up on Mitchell and Harden in the lane. And then their bigs. I think their bigs can be a differentiating factor for them. When they play the two big lineup, Mobley and Allen, those guys can really have an advantage in the paint around the rim. So it's really across the board, but clearly the two guards need to play really, really well to get a win and get back in this series.
Yeah, listen, that makes a lot of sense. And when you look at Mitchell, I mean, he averages 28 points a game, 7th in playoff history. You're right. He just doesn't seem to have that explosiveness. We don't know what's going on. They're not going to make excuses, but it does seem like something's going on. Meanwhile, you said the Cavs have to play well across the board. Well, that's because that's exactly what the Knicks are doing. What do you make of their start in this series, and how do they build upon it tonight?
Well, I'll tell you what, look, they've been incredibly impressive since they turned everything around in the middle of that Atlanta series. The historic offensive efficiency. We've talked so much about it. But I thought one of their best performances was game 2 against the Cavs, because it was across the board. When you look at that starting lineup, OG Anunoby, he's starting to find his rhythm again after missing some time with that hamstring injury. And his defense is always top shelf. Mikal Bridges has barely missed a shot now in about a 9-10 game stretch. Really incredible what he's doing. Double-double out of Karl Anthony Towns. Jalen Brunson, more of a facilitator in this game. And then, of course, the headline was Josh Hart, and they decided to leave him. He did shoot 41% on the year from the 3, but he was struggling in the postseason. The Cavs made a conscious decision to leave him, and boy, did he make him pay with 5 made threes. So they had contributions at the highest level up and down that starting lineup. When they get that kind of balance, had a very difficult team to beat.
Yeah, I'm playing terrific defense as well. All right, meanwhile, in the Western Conference Finals, let's talk about really the biggest story, because it has been the physicality of the Thunder, particularly as it pertains to Wemby. We saw Wemby only take 15 shots in 39 minutes last night. What adjustments can the Thunder make, or can the Spurs make, on both ends of the floor to make life a little easier on Wemby?
I think for me, Wemby's got to do a better job of imposing his will with his size in the paint closer to the basket. It's easier said than done, because OKC's getting physical with him. They're standing him up. They're not letting him walk into positions he likes. But I do think he could be a much bigger threat if he sets ball screens a little bit tighter to the basket. So if they can get some of that two-man action where Wemby is setting that screen at the three-point line or inside of it, rather than 28 to 30 feet out, where it takes a lot longer to roll to the rim. You saw more of that in game 1, the tighter ball screen, and then really difficult decisions for the Thunder, because he's such a lob threat at that point. And you also got to be more patient getting the ball in the post when he does get a mismatch, instead of just reversing the ball if he doesn't immediately establish position. I don't think it was all Wemby. I think his teammates, his guards, they've got to do a better job of understanding the importance of him touching the ball in the paint and the pressure that'll put on OKC. Look, this isn't an easy task. The Thunder are a great team, and their bench was incredible in game 3. You're rarely going to see that level of production off a team's bench in a big moment. So they're deep. There's no doubt. But I think Victor Wembanyama is going to come out with incredible intent at the start of game 4, understanding they go down 3-1. I don't see anybody seeing them coming back from that. This is a must-win for the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama has got to impose his will as a big man in the paint to put pressure on that Thunder defense.
Speaking of must-wins, we're going to be calling one tonight for the Cavs. We look forward to it. Doing such a great job, our trio there, calling the Eastern Conference Finals. Thanks, Legs.
8 straight and trying to go up 2-0. This is a team that has shown resiliency all playoffs, all season long.
The Cavs are leaving them. Josh Hart making them pay.
Knicks dominating here in the third.
There is just a confidence that the Knicks have when they get James Harden in that ISO.
We're focused on winning.
9 consecutive playoff wins for the Knicks. The Knicks now up 2-0.
So fun seeing the fans. And, of course, Walt Clyde Frazier at his finest. Vinny Goodwill joins us now. So we have the Knicks going 10-8 last postseason. They've taken it to another level this postseason, 10-2, those 2 losses by a total of 2 points. What do you think is the biggest difference between last year and this year?
Well, Hannah, when you talk about the minutes that the Knicks players have played this year, it's a lot less. So they look a lot fresher down the stretch. They're able to close out games, even though the games haven't necessarily been close. But last year was a lot of Jalen Brunson or bust, especially down the stretch of games. When you look at this team this season and this playoff run, OG Anunoby in the first series with his efficiency. In the second series, it was Karl Anthony Towns getting triple doubles, working out of the high post, finding guys like Mikal Bridges, getting him going. And in this round, yes, you just saw Jalen Brunson close out that miraculous comeback in game 1, and Josh Hart in game 2 being able to feast off of defenses laying off of him. It's been a complete team effort as opposed to a one-man band that things seem to feel like last season.
Yeah, I want to talk about Josh Hart because this is kind of emblematic of the Knicks. Okay, so we see Josh Hart. He doesn't play down the stretch in game 2. Then he comes back with a monster game in game 3. He's interviewed afterwards and he says, I don't have an ego. That got burned out of my heart a long time ago. I'm here to serve my teammates. I mean, you don't hear people talking like that. What is Mike Brown saying about him?
Well, Mike Brown has had to understand that Josh Hart is a different type of ball player. And he said, I have to look at him like Andre Iguodala, a guy that I coached in Golden State, that you can't look at what he does on the stat sheet, that you look at the spirit that he brings, you look at the way that he's a connector. And then Josh Hart goes out there and hits 5 threes in game 2 because the Cavs were laying off of him. Like you said, they laid off him so much in game 1 that he sat in the last 10 minutes, giving way to Landry Shamet. That was not going to happen in game 2. So yeah, while Josh Hart is talking about submerging himself from his ego, divesting himself from his ego, he still wants to play well, and he understands that he's an acquired taste because of what he doesn't show on the stat sheet. But Mike Brown is beginning to appreciate all the things that he does do. And you can make the argument that the Cleveland Cavaliers are missing their version of a Josh Hart.
Yeah, listen, this guy scored 26 points in game 2, new playoff career high, tied for his second most in any game this season. If you want to go back and look at Jalen Brunson's video when he found out that they had Josh Hart and his reaction, that tells you everything about how critical this guy is. Vinny, thank you.
Hannah, NBA analyst Quentin Richardson also breaking down this Eastern Conference Finals. My friend, what adjustments do the Cavs need to make sure they don't go down 0-3?
OG is defensively first. They gotta make Brunson at some point uncomfortable. Like at some point in every game so far against them, he's been able to get off and get his game going, and they're not making him pick or choose or forcing him one way or the other. They got to do that first. But overall, their whole team defense has to step up. The Knicks have been able to get on too many runs and go on too many big runs to open up the gaps in these games. They got to put Karl Anthony Towns in a position where he's not able to facilitate and get as many buckets. He's getting downhill and getting to the basket, drawing fouls against the bigs, and then their pressure. They got to get up into the ball and make everything uncomfortable. They got to push their whole intensity up. They're at home, so they got the crowd behind them.
Knicks have won 9 straight games this postseason. What are they doing so well that's driving the success?
Listen, the Knicks have been playing dominant defense, OG. They've been holding teams to under 100 points, basically, right at 98.8 points per game during this streak. And this is like in this era, the whole team's consistently under 100 points. That's crazy, and they're doing that at a consistent basis. I think Mike Brown and the coaching staff, midway through, they switched it up once they started bringing Cat out to the top to become more of a facilitator, a la Joker in Denver, and he's been able to facilitate at about 7 assists per game. So everybody's getting involved, and then their bench and their other guys have been stepping up during this stretch.
Yeah, you know what they say: defense wins championships. We'll see if that holds true for the Knicks. Q's going to be back with us next hour to dive into the Western Conference Finals. See you in a few, my brother.